Hello, YouTube. All right, as many of you know, I'm shifting back to my roots, heading back to become a software developer, specifically video games, and closing out some projects and stuff. And in a weird twist, I'm actually going back in time. Instead of programming stuff for modern computers, I'm going back retro, but for modern computers. And what I mean by that is, what I found over the years is technology is kind of interesting, because technology has progressed to the point right now where we can emulate whole computer systems in code. And not only can we do it in code, we can do it and make it work in a web browser. Now, when I was at the height of my programming, it was actually back in the days of DOS, you know. So I had some tools and stuff and was doing some coding and stuff, and then life took over and I never basically launched my company. It never got big, okay? So I went on and became a teacher and everything else, but I'm actually heading back right now because in the past 30 years or so, they have gotten to the point where they put DOS, and they made a program called DOS Box. And what it is like a sandbox version of DOS, Microsoft DOS, that will run old DOS games. Then somebody came along and made it so it actually works inside a web browser. And that means you can actually run DOS games inside your web browser. And then someone else came along and, figured out how you could package it. So you could click on a link and the software would actually start up DOSBox inside a web browser and load and run your game. And you're like, well, what does that all mean? Well, what that means is I can write games like I used to 30 years ago, and 30 plus years ago, 20, 30 years ago, and make them work on modern computers that can run a web browser or can run DOSBox, which is pretty much all the machines, from Android to Apple to whatever. And part of that is trying to get the systems to work, but most modern computers, the only way I could really program it, and it's not really a big deal, and it could be done and actually might be the preferred way, is to run whatever OS you're running and then run DOSBox and then install your setup in there and run it from there. But I'm going a little bit retro because I don't really have a modern system right now, and I don't care to spend the money on a modern system because even these old junky systems that I picked up for I think I got them for like $35 each, they are more than adequate. They're actually high-end for the DOS days because they're Pentium class, 2-3 gigahertz machines. They're blazing, okay? But what I picked up today, I was checking on Facebook Marketplace, and this guy was selling some Dinosaur computer systems. Yeah, 2 laptops. Not only laptops, IBM, it's an IBM ThinkPad, 2 IBM ThinkPads, one smaller than the other. And he said one contained Windows 98 and one contains Windows 2000. I was looking on the bottom of them, and originally they both came with Windows 98. This is 98 second edition, which is like pretty much the last days of DOS, when DOS was dying out. And this one says it's just, it's also Microsoft, it says Windows 98 second edition. So they both support Windows 98 second edition as standard when they came. He says one machine has Windows 2000 on it, and one has 98. I don't know yet because I haven't even booted them up. But he was kind enough to throw in even accessories. Like he's got an external USB floppy drive and an external DVD CD-ROM player. So I don't know if it all works and stuff. He said he couldn't really get it. He got it to kind of boot up, reset the password, so hopefully I can get in with the password. I can reformat it and do all sorts of stuff with it. But honestly, what I want to put on it is probably Windows 98. Or maybe Windows 98 on one and then Windows XP on the other. And it'll give me a laptop that will run Windows 98 and Windows XP. And you're like, well, why would you do that? Well, remember, the development system I'm going to be developing under is DOS. So I want an older machine that can boot up straight into DOS. Like I said, I could do it on a new machine, and I might get a new mini notebook eventually and just put DOSBox on it. But that's going to cost me like about $200. This was $20 for 2 computers. So this is like overkill. This is like way more powerful than what my game will need. But if I can get this working, for $20, I have 2 laptops for development that'll run DOS. And I can put my code on there and test it out. I can test it out under Windows 98, Windows XP, all the way up to Windows 10. The idea is to make the game so that it actually works on everything. I do want to pardon me here because I am cooking while I'm doing that. I'm doing this video and kind of need to handle the food. So This is a California steak, basically a cut of meat that I bought from Thrifty, and I cut it in half. It was like $5 and something, so I cut it in half, so it's about $2 or $3 slice. But gonna be a little steak for myself, so I'm making steak and rice. That's gonna be today's early dinner, and while that's cooking, I am just doing this video here. But what we're gonna do is try to hook up the laptops and see if they even boot up. Once they boot up, but it's a matter of me configuring them for development, and then I'll be able to develop. And you're like, well, why would you need the laptop if you got all these computers? Well, it has to do with testing stuff, and then possibly trying to get stuff to work under networking, old IPX networking. I think it's IPX. Is it IPX? Yeah. To get the networking working, maybe not. That's not that critical. But I couldn't pass up 2 laptops for 20 bucks. You know, $10 each. And these computers, even though they're ancient, when they were brand new, I think this IBM sold for more than $1,200 each. And then these would be additional peripherals. But real value nowadays, they're not really worth that much, because they can't even run, you know, unless you can get Windows 10 to work on them. But why would you want to? They're going to run really slow. They don't really have enough RAM, you know. And you could even buy, like, if you really want to go cheap nowadays, you could buy like a Raspberry Pi and run emulators and stuff, and run old DOS, run MAME, run all that stuff on it for like 20-25 bucks. So me spending $20 on 2 laptops seems like a good deal until you look at what modern technology is. But for me, it's going to be a good deal because it's retro. I'm actually going to be using real hardware to develop the software. And what's going to be interesting is the software, even though it's designed for DOS, is being designed in the year 2020, where we have touch screens and, you know, all sorts of fancy stuff that we didn't have or even think of back then. So even though I'm developing under DOS, I'm going to be trying to integrate like interface, you know, for like touch screen and stuff like that for a DOS game. So we'll see how that turns out. Basically, I'm porting some old games, not porting, but finishing them up. It was code that was left, and some of it is all the way from when I was a teenager. So we're going to be finishing projects up using actual hardware, and then trying to package it so it works inside a modern web browser. So let's take a look and see if we can get these laptops to even come up. Alright, so I got my little computer here on the workspace, and I had 2 of them, and they were 2 different sizes, and 2 different models, even though they're both ThinkPads, one's just bigger than the other. And he gave me 2 power supplies, and the power supply didn't really say much, but I'm looking at the power supplies, and they both appear to output, I know it's not showing up on here, but let's see if we can get it focused here. Here we go. So the power supplies output, both of them output 16 volts at 4.5 amps. So then the assumption for me is that both power supplies will work, so it doesn't really matter which one. I just want to make sure I didn't plug in the wrong one and blow up the computer. So at this point right now, I'm thinking the older one's probably the smaller one. So I'm trying to look for dates, but it doesn't really matter. They both output the same level, you know, power, and I'm assuming the same polarity. But this is all the way from, it says 2002, February 2002 is when this machine was made. This power supply, and then this other one here doesn't seem to have a manufacture date. But I'm going to go ahead and use it, this little one here, and attempt to plug it in and see if we can't get this thing to come on as is. Now, the guy that sold it to me says that, you know, the batteries aren't holding a charge, which they won't, not at, you know, this stage. And it might even be hard to get a battery pack for it. You might have to build one yourself, but I don't even care about the battery pack because I'm not going to be using it as a laptop so much as using it as a desktop machine for development. And more than likely, I'll hook it up to a VGA monitor instead of just using the screen that's on there. For the simple fact that, you know, the screen is tiny, and I got like a big screen TV now. We're developing on an old machine, but we're doing it in the 2020. So this machine is from 2002, or roughly around that time. 2000, 2002. So it is a fairly, 18, 20 years old. This machine's about 18 years old or more. So I've got the power plug plugged into the back. And what we're going to attempt to do, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, we're going to attempt to turn it on. So I got to plug the line in, obviously. So we'll go into the power cable line here, if I can find it. Power strip here. and see if we can't get this to come up, and we'll fix the wiring and stuff later. So, alright, plugged in, move it in all the way. So hopefully we got power. Yeah, the little orange light came on, so we got power at this point. This thing's a little bit floppy. the screen is a little floppy. We're gonna go ahead and try to turn it on now. Figure out where the power is. I think that's it right there. And my camera went off. Yeah, I definitely need to hire a new assistant. At least it's coming up. It says IBM ThinkPad. Let's see, F1 for BIOS. F12 to choose temporary boot device. So, I don't know if it's even going to boot. If it doesn't boot, I'll have to diagnose it, and I'm not really going to do a diagnosis video right now because I'm probably going to eat and have to deal with the steak right now. So, if it looks like it's sitting, I'm just going to let it try to boot because old machines took a long time to boot. There's F1 for BIOS. It doesn't say it's locked, but if it doesn't even boot up, that's booting up. And it booted up into BIOS. And he said you have to reset the time. So I may have to open it up and replace you know, a battery or something in there if I can replace it, because it's not knowing the date and the time, and it wants you to set the date and time. So we're gonna have to do that. So, but I do have to deal with the food, so I'm gonna freeze the video for now. All right, I went ahead. It looks like the food's done, so I shut the thing off. But we're gonna attempt to film this here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. For those of you who are techno nerds like me. And he basically told me that you need to enter the time and the date and stuff to, you know, the BIOS. It thinks it's 1988, so that's how old the BIOS is. This computer BIOS is from 1988. I'm going to go ahead and set the correct information if I can even remember what it is. Except I can't remember what it is, and I don't know. Oh, I was looking for the phone, my phone, which has a date and stuff, and today is... The phone is what's filming. So I'm definitely losing my mind. So what I'm going to do right now is set this. This is 08, which is August 8. And I think my son said it was the 29th. I'm not sure here. 29? Let's say 29. We're just going to put it at 29. And 2020. And the time, I don't know what time it is. The time is wrong, but I'm going to tell it, it's in military time. I'm going to say it's 3 o'clock, so it's 1500. And I'm going to pause this in a moment. Oops, 1-5, tab. Nope, got to move the arrow. Well, 1500. I'm going to hit enter there, and we're going to hit save and exit, which is F10. Save it, yeah. Hopefully it'll recognize the hard drive automatically. I am going to go ahead and pause this video a moment just to go turn on the air conditioning, or I'd let it sit, but my assistant here sucks. It's, see how it kind of, I need to basically lock this thing down. I need to get some sponge or something to lock this screw. Yeah, I'm going to turn on the air. You guys can watch it boot. Alright, air conditioning's on, computer's just sitting there and not booting, and it says to start recovery program, blah blah blah. Ah, it's popping up. At least it's running Windows 98. Supposedly Windows 98 second edition, which is like the last great version of Windows that was still running on, I think 98 was still running under DOS. I think after 98, you know, they pretty much got rid of DOS, and then DOS became a shell program. But prior to that, all the old Windows were still booting up in DOS and then running a program called Windows. So I'll have to double check that history, but I think 98 is still really running DOS and then running Windows on top of DOS. And it looks like it's coming up. So Mr. Dinosaur computer salesman guy, okay, and entering the network password and blah 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 blah. I think he said he changed the password to 1 2 3 4. Let's see if it'll let me in. Or he couldn't figure out the password. Ah, I got in. So There is a CD-ROM player on the computer, blah, 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 blah. I'm not even going to worry about that. But it came up. So one computer is fully functional, running Windows 98, supposedly 98 second edition. So that's really, really good. And what's cool about the IBM, but kind of bad, is it has these little knobs here that serve as a mouse. See that? As I move that, the mouse moves around. Isn't that weird? So I don't know if it had a pad. It didn't have a pad. It didn't have like a little mouse pad in those days. They used a little joystick to move the mouse around. Then you hit the button. So that's kind of weird, huh? But that's what the IBM ThinkPads had, and these things were, like I said, $1,200 to $1,600. They were expensive machines back in the day, and I got it for $10. So, and not just that, I got the accessories too, like a CD-ROM and a floppy drive. And you know, now it's just going to be a matter of configuring it and trying to install the compilers. I got to look at the system and see how much memory there is. I don't remember how large the hard drive will be read, you know, from a USB external drive and flash cards and stuff like that. So I'll have to figure all that out. And I'm going to try to get my system all onto, like, potentially putting on a flash card, a USB memory stick. Because we're talking really ancient technology. Back in the day when 1 megabyte was huge. You know, nowadays 1 gigabyte is nothing. So I'm so happy we at least have one working machine. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down and see if we can get the other one to come up. And, you know, then I'm going to go ahead and start messing with this and configuring it. I don't know if you guys really want to see all that technical stuff. It's pretty boring. It's just basically me. You know, it says, what do I want to do right now? It's asking me what I want to do. And basically, I am going to just shut down. So we're going to go to move the... where my mouse went. I'm just going to enter. It's on OK, I think. We're going to power it down. I was actually surprised it kind of booted fairly fast. But then again, this is Windows 98, not Windows 95. So we'll go ahead and hook up the second machine and see if we can get that thing to boot up. And if that boots up, I am stoked. I have 2 working Windows 98. Well, he said the other one should be Windows 2000, so we'll see what happens. So stay tuned. Okay, this is the second machine which I plugged in using the same power supply. These old computers, they had like little locks on them when you shut the thing. But it is another ThinkPad, a bigger one. So this would be a more expensive model. And, you know, the guy even bought a Linksys networking card adapter to try to make all this work on the network. Because he was trying to get it on the internet. He was trying to use it as a computer. And it is a computer, but it's ancient by today's technology. And, you know, when he saw that he couldn't really use it for surfing the web and all that stuff that he wanted to do, decided to just go ahead and pass it on to somebody else who might be able to do something with it instead of just tossing it or, you know, selling it to a collector, which he was saying that these are worth a lot of money on the internet, on eBay and stuff, but I don't really think they're worth that much. As a computer guy myself, knowing that you can run emulators and stuff like that, unless you're a purist and actually collecting these for some kind of library or, you know, like archive or museum or something. But would I have bought these machines if they weren't like $10 each? I probably would have been willing to pay up to $15, $20 each. But then I wouldn't really want it. I don't really need it. But because he was offering 2 for $20, I'm like, you know what? And I'm developing under DOS. It would be nice to have a machine, you know, a laptop that I can actually install everything on and try to get it working. So let's go ahead and try to power it up. Once again, it's got the little joy thingy, stick pad thingy on there. And this is how the mouse works. This looks like a 3-button mouse. And the sticker on here says Windows 2000 Professional. So even though the bottom side, I don't know if you can see the sticker here. The bottom side said it was Windows 98 SE. The top sticker says Windows 2000. And it has a Pentium 3. So potentially this thing might have came in from IBM with Windows 2000. It was an upgrade, and they might have meant for it to have 2000 on it. So it looks like it did come with 2000. And we're not going to do the password, but we're going to do the date and time. And I'm sure it's going to forget it again. So hopefully the date and time is hopefully just a battery, a little tiny, you know, those little round batteries. I'm gonna have to open this up and take a look at it. And I'm not really much of a laptop guy. And the last laptop I took apart, I couldn't get back together. Actually, I could, but I didn't because it complicated. It was my old mini notebook. It died, and I decided to just give up on it. But anyhow, we're gonna go ahead and go 08, and I don't know if it was we moved the, was it enter? Yeah, and 29. Even though it's probably, this really doesn't even matter because it's gonna forget it. 2020. And we're gonna go down to the next one, and we're gonna say 1500. About 3 o'clock is about when we're doing this. I'm guessing. I haven't even paid attention to time. So we're gonna hit F10 to save this configuration and have it reboot. So cross your fingers, and if it actually comes up and work, I got 2 working laptops for. It looks like, I don't know if the screen is scratched or just dirty. The screen got scratched. There's actually a crack there, a little line there. I don't know if you can see the little line on the screen. Not that big a deal. Like I said, I could develop on a modern machine and just run DOSBox, which I may end up doing. But if I can get these working, I may just use these to develop on, because these machines honestly are overkill. It says it's coming up under Windows XP. So even though the sticker said 2000, this looks like it's not booting 2000, it's booting XP. Which means somebody probably just stuck a sticker on here. Now, the guy said he bought it from the flea market, from the antivirus guy at the flea market. I don't know if he said flea market, but he said an antivirus guy, computer nerd. Yeah, it's coming up under Windows XP. So it didn't come up under 2000. That means, to me, what it means is somebody had this, the original IBM, when they were going to release it, it was designed for Windows 98 SE. Then somebody put in, they released it with Windows 2000, which would be like NT. I think 2000 was the equivalent of NT4. And then somebody decided to upgrade it. It says Windows Genuine Advantage Notification Introduction. Okay, it's wanting to confirm that it's real Windows. I just want to say cancel for now. Hopefully it doesn't crash my computer. But it's coming up under Windows XP, not 2000, and it works. So it's going to be a matter of me testing all this out and making sure that it connects, if it connects online. Running Windows XP as a laptop would make this machine the equivalent of my desktop machines that I have sitting around here. And actually, Windows XP is one of my favorite versions of Windows. So if this one works, I'll probably use this as my main machine. It's got a decent sized screen. It's not widescreen or anything, but it's got Windows XP on it already installed. And if it's all configured and working, and I get the Linksys here working, then I can connect to Wi-Fi. If not, I have the little portable, the stick version of it that can go into USB port. So we'll see how much operational this is, and if it's fully operational, I'll be able to try to do development, and I may try to develop under XP, under MS-DOS versus 98 MS-DOS. And I might just keep just to test it out. And, if you play like really old games and stuff, you can run them in DOSBox, which is cool. But if you play it on the real hardware, it's a little bit more nostalgic. And I remember these computers being out when I was a technology specialist, at the elementary school. We had like, I think 300 to 500 of these computers I was in charge of. So it's not like a machine that I'm not familiar with, because we had these, we had desktop machines that I ran. And then I think we had 50 laptops, and they were all IBM ThinkPads. Don't remember if it was the little one or the big ones, but we did run, I think we ran Windows XP on the, it was probably Windows XP on the laptops. But yeah, $20 for 2 working laptops. That's an incredible deal. So until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Please stay safe. And remember, it's not junk if you can still use it. And I appreciate Dinosaur Computer Guy for selling them at a bargain, because they're going to be put to good use. And if I ever get my game going, which I am planning on it, finishing it up, I'm going to put him in the game. So take care, everyone. God bless you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.